Hi everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats our boat. So today I'm going to be reviewing a Hallmark Christmas movie called Santa Tell Me. So before I get into the review, I just want to say thank you to everybody who likes, subscribes, watches my videos. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. So this movie was definitely a fun movie. It's about a girl named Olivia, and it starts out kind of with a flashback. Olivia and her sister Darcy, when they're little, they're writing letters to Santa, and basically Olivia's letter to Santa is, I want to find my true love. Tell me the name of the person, my soulmate that I'm supposed to be with. Right? And then it flashbacks 25 years later, and Olivia is a designer for Style Home Network. So she's on that on television, Style Home Network, but she dreams of having her own design show, right? Because she's a designer, and basically they tell her that you're going to design this house. We're going to do a live reveal. Going to fix it up in 3 weeks. And so she's like really looking forward to it. If everything goes well, they're saying she can get her own show, but they're actually going to team her up with somebody else. His name is Chris, and he is the producer of Model Home, which is kind of like a reality show. Models all living in a house with cameras everywhere, right? So Olivia's like, this guy, the model home guy, like he's not going to be able to help me, but she has to play nice with this Chris guy, because if everything goes well, she gets her own design show. So even though she's a little upset she has to work with this guy, she thinks he has zero experience, kind of thinks his reality show is kind of dumb. You know what I mean? She's just kind of pretty upset that this is the opportunity that she's been wanting for so long, and now she has to work with somebody who she doesn't feel is qualified or experienced for the job. And there's a deadline they have to fix up, and they're actually going to fix up her child home. So this is a house that you saw earlier from the flashback. Her childhood home, and they have to do it in 3 weeks. So her childhood home in 3 weeks has to make a holiday perfect house. So they're not really going to film her fixing up the house. They're going to film the live reveal on Christmas Eve. So, obviously in typical Hallmark fashion, they're button heads. They don't like each other at first, but you kind of know in typical Hallmark movie, this is the one she's going to fall for, right? So she tells her sister, we're fixing up, our home that we grew up in. So they go there and look at it, and it's falling apart, right? And they see something kind of glowing in the vent. So her and her sister go, and it is a letter that, basically she wrote to Santa, and they're looking in an envelope, and there's writing on it. As soon as they open up the kind of card or index card, it starts gold writing, almost like it's coming to life. It's magic. And it basically tells her that she's going to find her true love, a man named Nick, and she basically needs to meet him by midnight. So she's like, okay, when I was a kid, I wanted to know the name of my soulmate, and now it looks like Santa has this magic letter, and he's telling me his name's Nick. So, she doesn't really believe it. She throws it away. But the next day, she meets 3 people within 10 minutes, right? So she goes to the coffee shop. She meets a guy in the coffee shop. His name is Nick A. And then she as he leaves, she spills coffee on somebody in the street, and his name is Nick B. And then she's like, kind of out of it, did I just meet 2 people named Nick? This is insane. And then she almost gets run over, and a man grabs her arm and kind of saves her from getting hit by the car that's speeding away, and he says his name is Nick C. So she's just like, wait, this is crazy. I just met three men named Nick within 10 minutes, and they're Nick A, B, and C. So I thought that was comical. So Nick A is a doctor. Nick B is a handyman with tools. He owns his own kind of furniture furnishing store, but great with his hands, does all kind of woodworking. And then Nick C is a firefighter, and he models in the firefighter calendar for charity. So definitely interesting. I mean, Nick A, when they met in the coffee shop, they kind of bonded because they grew up at the same skating rink. So I feel like, they kind of had that instant bond. And then they find out Nick B, the furniture store that he owns, which she didn't know, but when she went into the store, she's like, hey, it's funny running into you here. And he's like, I own this store. And she loves the antiques and the furnishings from that store. So it looks like she's kind of got a connection with both of them. And then Nick C being, a good looking firefighter. So it's definitely interesting, right? She goes on a date with all of them. And, it's funny because each of them, something goes awry in each of the first dates. So you think, okay, I got to find which Nick I need to figure out which Nick I need to be with by midnight, right? Or this wish or, won't come true. So, it's funny when she talks to her sister, she kind of says, well, they all were terrible. I nearly blinded Nick A, popped a cork in his eye where they were on the ice and he fell over. And then Nick B, she gave a concussion because she threw a snowball at him when they were at the Christmas market. And then Nick C, she gave a cookie to, and the cookie had almonds in it, and he had an allergic reaction, and she sends him to the hospital because Nick C, the firefighter, is allergic to almonds. So it's funny to see her go through these dates, and she has these moments, Nick A, the doctor, he rents out the entire skating rink. So, I mean, it's really romantic, and then she goes on a second date with Nick A, and she goes, well, the only thing that would be more romantic would be mistletoe. And so on the second date, he sets up mistletoe. So, I mean, there's good moments in each of these dates, but it's just funny how something always happens. And you can kind of tell there's not really a spark there. Like, they're all good guys, right? But they don't check off all her boxes. Nick A, Nick B, and Nick C, they all kind of bring something to her relationship and her dating life. But she can't really pick one. But then she's like, it has to be one of these three people. I mean, I read this letter, supposedly from Santa with the gold writing. And then I see, and then I run into three people named Nick. So it's like, it's fate. And she keeps the letter in her purse, and the messages keep changing. And, then she finds out she needs, I mentioned it early, she has until midnight, and that's from a different message. So there's these messages, kind of like a bell, and she kind of sees her purse light up, or and it's the card, it's the envelope, and it's got a new message for her. So I mean, it's definitely interesting. And this whole time while she's going on these dates with all three of these Nicks, she's having to deal with Chris, which kind of, like I mentioned, she was very upset that she has to work with them because this has to go perfect, right? They're going to do a live reveal. She has 3 weeks, Christmas Eve, live reveal at this house, and if it goes well, she gets her own design show. So lots riding on it. And Chris, seems like he's really involved, like this matters to him, so she's finding out with different conversations, and that Nick is a good designer. He has a master's degree in engineering and design, which she didn't know. So he knows the jargon. He knows what they're doing. She's designing and drawing pictures, and he understands everything that she wants to do with the house. So they're starting to get along, and they have their moments, where they bicker, but they also have their moments where Olivia's like, I'm starting to get along with Chris. And there's actually one time where Chris says something like, what his dreams are. And Olivia just has this look on her face because he's like, I want to have adventures, doing what I love. I want to create amazing shows. I want to travel around the world. I want to experience everything that the world has to offer. And Olivia's like, those are all my dreams too. So they kind of have this bonding moment. But this whole time, Olivia's like, I have to honor this card. So I'm getting along with Chris, and she seems to be bonding with him, but his name's Chris, right? And she's like determined that it has to be one of these Nicks. So they kind of talk about their childhood too. What traditions do you have? And Chris is like, I don't really have any traditions with my family. I travel a lot. But one thing I do is I decorate a tree outside my apartment. And I really wasn't even going to mention this as part of my review because I was just a part of them bonding. However, Olivia, to be nice to Chris, she decorates the tree outside of his apartment. And there's one close-up scene in that a close-up in that scene rather, where they show a Nutcracker snowman ornament, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is a legit Hallmark ornament. I have it hanging on my tree as we speak, and I was just floored. I was like, oh my gosh, I have that ornament. So Olivia decorates this tree outside his apartment as a gesture to show, she cares for Chris, as a friend, not romantically, but just as a nice gesture. And they show that close up of that ornament. And if you're a Hallmark ornament fan, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And you probably were like, so excited when you saw it, just like I was. But I thought that was super cool. I was like, oh wow, I have that ornament, and that is so cool. Anytime Hallmark does that, by the way, Hallmark, if you're listening, us fans, we love that. Throw in real Hallmark ornaments every now and then in your movies, because it's so cool to see something on your television screen and then turn and look at your Christmas tree and see the same ornament. It was super cool. So if you're listening, Hallmark, keep that up. That is really cool to see that. Chris kind of does nice things for her too. I mean, you can kind of tell they're having this budding romance, even though it's not said, right? Because she's still dating these Nicks, and she's talking to her sister and trying to figure out which Nick is the right Nick. And her sister's trying to help, right? Tell me about Nick B. Tell me about Nick C. What did you do? What do you like about him? What don't you like about him? What boxes do they check off? So her sister's trying to help guide her, but she's very conflicted because she's got this 3-week deadline that could really, spearhead her career, right? Because she could get her own design show. And she's dealing with Chris, which by now, she's bonding and she has a friendship with, so it's not that difficult as it was at the beginning. But she's also trying to navigate when she's not working on the house and, having this interaction with Chris. She's dating these guys and trying to figure everything out. So it's definitely a lot. But Chris brings her back to, the network, the network prop warehouse. Sorry, I was reading my notes there. And takes her on a sleigh ride with lights and brings her hot cocoa with tiny marshmallows in it. Kind of uses makes it snow, uses a snowmaker that the network has, and it's really just a really sweet moment. I mean, they're not outside obviously, but they're in this warehouse, and Chris did all of this for her. So you can kind of see she decorated the tree outside his apartment because that was his tradition or something that he did for the holidays. And then he does this with the sleigh ride, and then he says, look, I really want the show to go well too. I mean, it's important to Chris to make the show go well, right? So everything's on schedule. They're ready for the live reveal. So the show is called Home for the Holidays, with Olivia Spencer. They're live, right? They're in the house. It's Christmas Eve. They're live. And one by one, well, I don't want to say they're live yet. They're live in 3 minutes, right? And one by one, each Nick comes to the reveal to support Olivia, right? Because they don't know about each other, and they're all there to support their girl they're dating, right? And so she's like, okay, wait outside. She's flustered, but she's got to do this live reveal. So she's trying to get it out of her mind. I'll deal with it later. So, of course, all 3 Nicks are standing next to each other outside, and they get to talking. So you're like, oh, this is not going to be good. So all 3 of them get to talking. They're like, oh, Olivia looks great. She looks beautiful. They're like, oh, how do you know Olivia? And so you know that they're all going to be talking. So she goes live, they're filming her inside the house, and she's like, this is the house. And then you see outside in the window, the 3 Nicks, they're fighting. They got fake candy canes. They're hitting each other. And this is all live. So the cameraman, the producers are like, go get that. Like, what's going on outside? So Olivia rushes outside, and of course the camera crew, it's live. They're wanting to see the drama. So she rushes out to stop them. They're still filming. And basically, the three Nicks call her out and are like, hey, we know you're dating all of us. What's going on? You got to pick one. And she's like, I got to pick one now. And they're like, yeah, you got to pick one of us. And she basically has a pause. I don't want to say hesitate. She kind of pauses and then basically like doesn't make a decision on any of them. Meanwhile, Chris is standing behind her watching all this. And so, all three of the Nicks get mad and storm off because she didn't pick any of them. And then she turns around to Chris, and then Chris gets mad and basically storms off and tells her off too, like, hey, I thought we were having this special bond, and like I mentioned, they were bonding. They were kind of having feelings for one another, but she's still conflicted with all the other Nicks. So Chris gets mad, basically says his piece and leaves. So now she's left right by herself, live on TV. And so she obviously is like very upset. She goes home, turns her phone off, because she's like, I don't even want to talk to anybody right now. But the network loved it. Of course the network loved it. It's drama, right? Hello. And they said they got so much publicity that they are still going to give her own design series. Like, didn't go as planned, but they loved it. They got all the Nicks on there, and they loved the Nicks. They were so comical. They're thinking of giving the Nicks their own dating show. So, I mean, even they are going to get a win-win out of this. So she's kind of surprised because she thinks everything went wrong, but the network loved all the publicity, loved all the drama, and she's getting her own design show. So once she realizes that, she's realizing her true feelings for Chris. She tries to find Chris. He's at the train station. Of course, it's Christmas Eve, and she has to do it by midnight. So it's like, 11:55 or whatever. They're rushing. Her and her sister are rushing to the train station. So of course, she finds Chris, and he doesn't get on the train, and they have their heart to heart. I think I'm falling for you, blah, 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 and then on the PA system, you see them paging Nick Davis, and she's like, wait, your name's Nick? And, and he's like, yeah, it's a family tradition. The first son is always named Nick, but there's so many Nicks in family. I go by my middle name, Chris. And then, of course, she kisses him. And this is after they said how much they have feelings for her. So she was willing to just forget about it. I like Chris. The card from Santa must be wrong. And then she finds out, in the last minute in the movie that he was the Nick all along. So I think it was a good movie. I mean, honestly, from the beginning, I knew she was going to fall for Chris, and I knew his name was going to be Nick in the end. So, I mean, it was a cute movie with the dating the three guys and, the funny scene where they're like, fighting and the little sweet moments that she had with Chris, decorating the tree. Like I said, loved the Hallmark ornament. So kudos, Hallmark, for putting your real, Hallmark keepsake ornament in there that I loved. But I kind of knew, and I guess that's typical with Hallmark movies anyways. You kind of always know that they're going to fall for each other. But I was like, it's going to turn out that Chris is his middle name. Like, I kind of just knew that from the beginning. But I still thought it was, a cute movie. Anytime I do a review, I do my gen rating, what I loved about the movie, what I didn't love about the movie. Was it believable? Did I believe the actors, the storyline, and the overall feels in the movie, How did it make me feel? So I loved the actors and actresses in the movie. Daniel and Aaron were great. I'm sure you've seen them before. They're great Hallmark actors and actresses. They've been in a lot of films. And they always deliver. I always believe them anytime they're in a movie. So I do think it was believable. Not much that I really disliked. Like I said, I thought it was a little predictable, but I don't want to I mean, most Hallmark movies are predictable, but I feel like she was going to fall for Chris, and you want to believe in the magic of Christmas, so you can't actually think that Santa was wrong, right? And this letter keeps changing, keeps lighting up, and you see the gold writing and it's additional messages. So she's getting a couple messages, but I just knew, you were going to find out Nick was his first name and his middle name was Chris. So I wasn't surprised when that happened at the end because I was kind of waiting for it. But I thought there was some good parts. I liked, like I said, decorating the Christmas tree was a different tradition, not the typical thing that you do. He's outside his apartment. It's a public tree, right? So, and of course the keepsake Hallmark ornament in it. Loved that. I didn't really dislike much, just a regular Hallmark movie. I didn't think anything really stood out. Like I said, I love Daniel, I love Aaron, the characters, the actors, they were great. No disrespect to them, they did a great job. I just think the storyline, was nothing really stood out to me. I'm really big on Christmas, really big on family. And I didn't really see a lot of lessons really, that made it super Christmassy. I mean, I know it was a letter from Santa, but I would have liked to see a little bit more of that, All in all, though, I thought the acting was great. I love them. And I love watching movies that both of those characters, or actually Daniel, Aaron are in. I'm sorry, the actors and actresses are in. So all in all, I thought it was a great movie. For my Gen rating, especially with the keepsake ornament in there, that's going to bump it up. I would normally say, I would give this a 3, but with the Hallmark keepsake ornament in there, I'm going to bump it up another one, and I'm going to give it 4 gold crowns. So Hallmark, you got an extra gold crown because of the keepsake. Otherwise, I would have rated it 3 gold crowns just for being so kind of predictable and the typical Hallmark movie. But that keepsake ornament, close up, love it. Keep that up. So yes, I will give you an additional gold crown just for that. So Hallmark, I hope you're listening. So for this movie, my Gen rating, I give that 4 gold crowns. I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope if you get a chance to see the movie, it's just kind of a fun movie you can watch with your family. And until next time, I will see you then. Bye.